Welcome to Never Too Late for Fitness Radio, bringing baby boomers proven strategies and innovative products for getting fit, staying fit, so you can live a longer, healthier, and happier life. Here's your host, best-selling author and fitness advocate, Phil Ferris.
This is Phil Ferris, and welcome to our show. Never Too Late for Fitness Radio provides answers and straight talk about fitness, nutrition, and healthy lifestyles for people over 50. Our goal is to educate and advocate health and fitness strategies that help you to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. If your health is a priority and your plan of care leaves you feeling stuck, unsatisfied, and not in control, this episode is for you. My guest today is Burgess, who found his purpose for helping people to be free from pain at a very early age. As a healthcare consultant, he regularly shows his commitment through transparently communicating and being vulnerable about how he has overcome a life of physical and emotional pain. He credits regenerative, functional, lifestyle medicine and receiving mentorship as the key components to his physical, mental, and professional transformation. In his relentless pursuit of personal and professional growth, JR has played an integral role in replicating a proven integrative model of care in more than 150 clinics worldwide. He is driven to make the greatest contribution in changing the way healthcare can be delivered by implementing restorative medicine protocols, medical marketing and sales, practice management, and medical leadership development. Medical professionals and patients need and deserve the time to listen, connect, and co-create a transformative plan of care together. JR believes healthcare without personal growth, movement, and nutrition as the foundation is not healthcare. He is a husband, father of 4, international speaker, and 2-time #1 best-selling author. He is here today to share his transformative journey and how an integrative plan of care may be just what you need. Thanks for being on the show today, JR.
Thank you so much, Phil. It's an honor to be here and share a message and hopefully help some people today.
Now, JR, you went through a personal and career transformation. Although you had achieved great success in your business, it was taking its toll on your health and your family. And you decided to put your family and your health at the top of your priorities. Can you share your story and how the transformation changed your life?
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me on. My journey began into the medical fitness and healthcare space about 11 years ago. And we started I was a fitness director and started adding medical fitness to a sports medicine doctor that believed that lifestyle changes were really important to get the right outcomes for patients. So we went from 1,000 square feet to 6,000 to a 28,000 square foot integrated center and started licensing it all around the country. So at about that time, that was, a lot of work to get to that point. It was years of significant hours, and I hadn't had, a family right away. So it was really easy when it first began to do that. And then I started to see that I was following my father's footsteps, which was one of the hardest working men I ever knew. But I didn't have him there as a childhood that maybe I would have sought after or wanted from a father. And I started to see that I was following in the same footsteps. And I came down with Lyme's disease. I had numerous sports injuries. I've, had stem cells 11 times. I've had so many surgeries, and I was starting to really get fatigued and burnt out, not necessarily in a spirit or a mindset. I've always been in line with, since I've been doing the coaching, is I love what I do more than anything in the world. It's part of my identity even, is I love helping people. And but I was helping too many. So after we went into our 28,000 square foot center, we realized we had a model that was truly changing healthcare. So we started licensing our medical fitness model, got to about 50, 60 locations, and recognized they weren't all having the same success as us, because a lot of the doctors that we were working with weren't entrepreneurs. They hadn't learned the business system strategy that I had been going to masterminds learning how to implement at Rejuve. And every time I would go out for these license and speaking, our brick and mortar would take a little bit of a back seat and start to not perform the right way. And at our largest, we had 107 employees. And, I went from working out every day to not working out, and then dealing with the chronic disease, Lyme's disease, and it was starting to catch up for me. And in 2019, I went to a Tony Robbins event in March, and I knew that, I wanted to go help other doctors or fitness professionals at the center. Kind of lost my heart for managing the day-to-day, some of the things that go into that, and really wanted to just scale the model of medical fitness or integrated healthcare. So he gave me some encouragement through his seminars, not personally, that, I had seen my fears. I had always grown up needing some sort of certainty. I was certain in my skills and what I could produce, but, I wasn't a big risk taker. So I was scared to go out on my own. That kind of pushed me over the edge, in addition to another gentleman that has made a big impact in my life over the last couple of years. And I decided to pivot. I sold my shares in our mastermind in our licensed company and one of the clinics that we owned as well, and went on my own just to a mission to help frustrated doctors that are maybe lonely and confused about how to build an integrated center, learn how to attract and convert cash-paying patients so they can actually practice medicine that restores and regenerates health.
So what was the moment when you said, I can't keep doing this? What was that one moment, and what did it feel like when you finally made the decision to pivot?
So I've always been a hard-charging guy. When I put my mind to a goal, I'm going to accomplish it. And I had saw a path in a playbook, as I've always been very involved with sports. That became my life at a young age after trauma. That was the only thing that would really resolve, I didn't, barely graduated high school. I never had high school math or English. So I was going to go build water towers. And then I realized what hard work was, and I missed partying and baseball, so I went back to college. But it was, recognizing that I wasn't going to accomplish the goal based on my playbook. I was incredibly blessed and thankful that I had the opportunity there, but I wanted to write my own playbook at this time and focus where I could just put my talents to the best use. So it was recognizing that my way of trying to get there and what the team also needed weren't in the same full alignment anymore. So I wasn't getting where I want after 2 years in terms of the path that I wanted to take. So, I just wanted to write that own path, write my own playbook, and, be in line with completely where I thought my skills were. So it took a lot of courage, a lot of fear, uncertainty. Would I be successful on my own? And I made the leap because I recognized my health was trembling. I was reactive versus I usually like to listen, connect with people. So I was turning into less of the person that I was prior. It wasn't just happy joy anymore. It was frustration. And, I could see myself, well, it's their fault, or it's or I was using language that I learned through leadership that just wasn't sitting well with me. And, I've now learned after the fact, sometimes, you're going to continue to hit a brick wall if you're not within the right alignment of your soul's greatest desires. So, I had to make that, choice to let up a really amazing opportunity, something that I thought I was going to be doing forever, that I've invested my whole professional career into, in the fear of starting alone. So, it was just a choice that I knew I had to change because who I was changing in. I was sedating, I was covering up, I gave up alcohol years earlier because I felt that was going to get in my way. And if I know something's in my way, I will overcome it. And I was just sedating and, I wasn't being the husband and father that I wanted to be. So I knew that I had to make the change despite the fear that I was faced with.
What did you do first? What was the first action you took that got you on the new path?
What was the first thing that I did? I went in and said that I wanted to leave. So that was just the choice. And, partner and I said, well, let's just go down to that licensing and masterminds and do that. But, I wanted to run my own playbook. Like I said, is my soul. So I wanted to be able to work from home. I wanted to spend more time with my family and be there, as I felt I was missing out. And, not being the person I went. So it was just the choice to completely go solo. And like I mentioned, the Tony Robbins event helped me know that I am enough as well as another gentleman, and that, you know, I already had everything that I need. I had good money in the bank account. I'd been investing. My first job after undergrad was a financial advisor. So I had a fear that really wasn't real. And I just had to get past that. So it was a mind game for me. And I had to sit and coach myself the way that I coach everybody else that has barriers or obstacles, saying, is that true? Is that not possible? Will you be able to feed your family? Will you be able to still do the things that you love? And that answer was yes. Maybe my lifestyle had to change some, but the answer was, it was just in my mind. So that was the choice that I had to do, is, you know, just give myself permission. It'll be okay. And I knew that I had a network. I knew I'd built relationships and had to, you know, get some coaching through that, which I always believe in. If you're a coach out there and you're not getting coaching yourself, you know, it won't lead you to be the best coach. It won't allow you to show up. It won't allow you to have the worth of that your services are worth it if you're not getting that same advice or guidance to get you past your boundaries, bottlenecks, or barriers.
You went down two paths. One was about your physical, reclaiming your health and fitness, and the other was this reinvention of your business and your professional model. What I want to do is talk a little bit about the physical part, the fitness part, and because this is something that a lot of people, business people, entrepreneurs will suffer, is they keep on putting more and more time into the business, and their body and their health becomes around to it. And all of a sudden you look around and see, geez, it's been 3 weeks since I've been in the gym or even taken a walk, or you get in front of the computer. The next thing you know, it's 8 o'clock. And you know, you think, okay, well, I'll just start tomorrow, but it never happens. So tell us a little bit about your path, Lyme disease and reclaiming your health and your fitness. So what did you do there, and how'd you accomplish it?
Yeah, so I had been injured numerous times. Even before I ever joined this clinic, I had 5 knee surgeries. I played D1 rugby. I played college baseball, and I would play on the weekends and limp all week long. So I was accustomed to dealing with pain and injuries, and that was the gift of regenerative medicine. It put Humpty Dumpty back together each and every time. I went from being told on my 6th knee surgery that I needed knee replacement to doing a stem cell, and 18 months later I was back to playing rugby. So continued injuries, I would just get well enough, and again, that was my outlet. So I'd hold in all the frustration. I could deal with stress, and my release was sports. But over the last few years prior to leaving, as soon as I got back on the field, I'd get another injury, and significant ones, torn Achilles, to this Lyme's disease. And thankfully, working with the functional doctors and the team there, that I was recovering. Vitamin C IVs, take all the right supplements, but because of the stress, I was still sedating and not eating perfectly. And again, from working out every day, yes, I would do my PT, but I wasn't working out anymore because now I had 3 major businesses. I was working 90, 100-hour work weeks on average, so I wasn't working out. So just leaving felt like the weight of the world off my shoulders. I didn't have near the responsibilities that I had, even though I had the stress of now I had to start doing things that I wasn't good at. I had a team. I had an executive assistant. I could delegate everything that I was terrible at and put myself in a position to scale. So I knew how to build a team and scale around my weaknesses. I never worked in there, but all of a sudden I had to do them. So it was a little bit of a learning curve. And you know, I started working out, but I would still travel a lot prior to COVID. So I wasn't inconsistent. So really COVID happened for me this year, Phil, to really give me the time to, you know, get back into my passion, which was getting these other doctors on there, helping them get their message out there, because, you know, so many of these amazing doctors are the best kept secret, or they've been trained on how to communicate science or learn science, but that doesn't always gel or make sense to the consumers. It doesn't know, well, can they help me with that? They're terms that they don't know. So I went back to doing a lot of interviews, which I really love to do, and speaking. So I was now doing things in my passion fully 90% of the time instead of half and half of managing in traveling and being exhausted, to doing a couple more stem cell treatments, and then I started yoga. So I was that sports guy that I'm used to going. I only know sixth gear. So what this did for me is I had to try something different. My back kept going out, so I did a back procedure. And I knew I took my genetic testing, and I wish I'd have had that as a child. I should have been stretching long before. So I even tried meditation, but my mind wouldn't sit still. I would get bored. I couldn't do it consistently. So I started yoga, and I committed to a challenge, which always is really good for a competitor like myself. And it was really hard and painful for the first couple of weeks. But then I started tracking my data. I have all the biohacking tools and believe in a lot of those technologies. So I'm looking at my Oura Ring, and I'm seeing my heart rate variability increase week in on week over. And my back pain's getting better. My stress is going. I'm leaning out, even though I'm barely working out. It's hard from a flexibility and a standpoint, but I'm not burning calories. And through this whole journey is I recognize is if you are that on-the-go person, you're burnt out, hard workouts aren't going to help you. You need to, as Deborah Atkinson says, restore before more. And I hadn't learned how to do that in my life prior to this point. I've always been on the go. So that showed up. It was the right thing for me. Yoga for a guy that always going to slow, to breathe, which I've heard all these things. I just didn't practice them when I was full to the max. So that reconnecting with my family, the dinner times, and, putting the business secondary. And, the amazing thing is I've always had the mindset of be a go-giver, give the value, outwork everybody. That was like my badge of honor is I can double everybody's production. I didn't burn out from a passion. My health was failing me. So, that pivoted, and instead of just being and connecting, I started getting business and opportunities. And just as we talked prior to the show, I got an offer to be the CEO of the MedFit Network, not by doing more, by saying, hey, here's the skills and value I can bring. Not that anything that you start isn't going to take work or a challenge, but I put my family first. I put our vacations first. I put my yoga as a routine first. And, good things are happening without the same grind mentality that I had before.
Okay. Now there's a couple things several things that you mentioned there. One is the go-getter, the hard driver. And if you don't allow time for recovery for your body and your mind and your spirit, it starts to bark at you. And so making that as a priority allows you to do more because you're more present, because you're not fighting all the other thoughts in your head of all the things you got to do. And the next, I got to be there. I got this other appointment. So how did that make you feel once you got your priorities aligned? How did that change the way you lived your life and how you feel about your life?
It feels better. Spiritually, I'm connected. Not that I don't still have challenges and struggles, just like every other human being. I've been that one guy that trades one addiction for the next. Even if they're a good addiction, everything has that fine line that I call it. Just like sports, they can be a good thing, but when you beat the crap out of your body over and over, it's not a great thing. Work can be a great thing, especially if you're aligned with your passion. But if it becomes an obsession or you're not taking time for your family, for your health, then too much of anything can be too much. So I just had to learn to get comfortable with less. And that was, such a pivot for me and such a opposite of who I've been my entire life. But in order for me to sustain and look at the goals for the long haul, to walk my children down the aisle, to travel and hike up mountains, it was pretty clear to see the path that I was on wasn't going to get me. And I've always heard this in mentorship. Every human or system is perfectly designed for the results that it produces. So if you want a better family, if you want a better marriage, if you want better business, you can't do the same things to get to that next level. You either have to add more structure, rest more, delegate more, gain a skill, whatever it is. It's just expecting, you've heard the definition of insanity, expecting different results without changing the inputs or the outputs is, not probably going to happen. So I was, at least aware enough and self-aware enough that things had to change, even though, and it took a friend at a funeral in this transition. She looked over at me. She was one of my best friend's childhood mother and sees how I grind. And she looks over me, and this is one of our friend's funeral and everything, and says, JR, what do you have left to prove? And I almost got offended for a minute. I was thinking, hey, I'm doing good things, but I sat and reflected, and really for a long time afterwards, and is like, you're right. Whose love am I not enough was I grinding because I wanted to make my father proud or follow his footsteps? Was I trying to prove the teachers that said I was a loser when I was behavioral and didn't fit into a school system? What was I doing this for? What was God's calling for me? And it wasn't an identity in work. It's, hey, helping people, which I still do, and I've now learned how to scale, and we'll get to that, and I'm sure in a minute, is how I've now scaled. Instead of how do I do this and have the impact that I want, I have to change, and that's going to a group system or learning what, everything that I need to do strategically, but then I need to have this balanced approach. And balance for me is I still don't mind a 50-hour work week, but balance that really makes the first things first, and then everything else that isn't a priority, you get better at saying no, which was next to impossible for me growing up. I was, like I said, give the extra value. I became popular and personal trainer because I gave everybody in the gym free sessions when I first started. Everybody that I ever connect with, I want to give value first, but I had to see, in order to fit that all, I have to get good at saying no to things instead of looking at, like every entrepreneur at one point, is your main focuses in life operating at the highest level? Because anytime you say yes to something when your priorities aren't operating at the highest level is really just your own, kryptonite.
Yep. And it's because everything you're saying yes to, that means you're saying no to something else. And that may be something that's more important rather than urgent. And we tend to get caught up in the tyranny of the urgent and yes. And that means I don't have time to say yes to family, to working out, to my health. And
that was required a change, Phil, because that's how my success was built. By, again, overworking, by overgiving value. But again, what's got you there won't get you to that next place. So everybody should always, that's listening, constantly evaluate what's the new change that's going to get me to that next place. And, reflecting. That's why I like sitting down quarterly and relooking at my goals. What are the priorities? What needs to change? I like setting and having annual planning with not just my inputs, but getting my mentors, my team members' inputs, and really making sure that the right plan is in place, because you can only do so much. And not that they're not good ideas or good things, but again, first things got to get done. And a lot of people, and I work with a lot of visionaries, and some of you listening are visionaries because you're listening, trying to grow. We love that. But we always have that end goal versus you got to kind of reverse engineer that thing and say, in order to get there, what is the exact first steps that I need to take? And a lot of the visionaries don't like taking the day-to-day. They just want the team to execute that. But you can't get there without taking the first steps. And usually that's structure, SOPs, doing the things that maybe you don't love until you can bring in those other team members. So as long as you have a clear strategic plan, it's so much easier than just floundering and doing and saying yes to everything. And that's even after I just recently took the business mastery. I was really good at that in Rejuve, is I recognized how we grew. It was all about systems to create that structure and freedom. But now I had to do that for myself again. I didn't have a sales process. I didn't block my time for my marketing, my sales. I was just doing things. And again, starting to get a little more busy than I want to. It's time to really get structured again for me to be the most effective that I can.
Okay, so JR, what I want to have you talk about is you've pulled a couple of passions, a couple of businesses together that utilize your unique strengths and experience and still give you the flexibility to manage your health and your family. So tell us about the businesses and how they fit and what they do to help people, because these are businesses that help people get better. I mean, And they fit together. So talk a little about the Medical Fitness Network and Health Evaders and how they work together and how they can help doctors and, the average person get healthier.
So first off, I want to tell a quick little story because I think strategy is the key to success, and then obviously implementation. So, I was at a Midwest Finals rugby match about 4 years ago, and I hadn't played in 2 years because my body was injured, and I just got there. And at once upon a time, I was a pretty good rugby player and could score nearly every game. And I'm watching the warm-ups like I always do, and I watch the other team intently, and I see their lineups. I see the guy that they're going to have on the outside, and I recognize that's immediately their weakness. So, we go out onto the field, and I'm starting. This is to go to the championship game, and we have an inside center in the game of rugby who's a dominator. He scores regularly. And I go out to their guys and I say, hey, guys, right away, you got to swing it out to me right away. And they're like, hey, we got these plays that we run with King James. I said, no. I said, trust me, just swing the ball out there the first time that we're inside our 50-meter line. And immediately they do that first two plays when we're inside the offense, and I easily go around and score upon the guy. So what you have to look at in business is what are the gaps? And when I see both medicine and fitness, there's two primary gaps when it comes to integrative care because it's not insurance driven. And that is innovation of how do we combine fitness and medicine together. Medical fitness has been around forever, but in the hospital centers, they operate in silos. It's not a part of the care plan. It's not a part of the communication. Absolutely. When they go working with these doctors, it's just like, hey, they should refer to me and they should refer over here. It's not a system. It's just a good, well-intention, which it is that, but it's not a system. So innovation of making a care plan this is a part of every single journey is something what nearly any and all integrated centers I walk into are completely missing. And then innovation is marketing and sales. Because healers want to help people, especially medical, they're used to just saying, here's your insurance, it's covered. They would just have to give that expert opinion. They didn't have to influence. They didn't have to communicate. They didn't have to hear and listen what they already did and didn't work before. So they have to switch. And the trainers, they didn't go to get marketing and sales background. They just wanted to help people. So in these groups that I worked with, those are the centers of what I'm doing. What is that strategic customer journey? That's one care plan. It doesn't mean they all need it. It just needs to be a part of the system and creating a unique branded protocol that gets there. But now these doctors, these trainers need to learn how to message, communicate, influence, do motivational interview, to ask for a sale if they think they're the best. By the time I left one-on-one coaching and sales, if I had somebody that was sick or in chronic disease or overweight and they came into our facility and I didn't help them get started, I felt that I was killing them if they walked out the door because there was nothing better than what our solution was. So I believed in our service. And if people out there are going to be successful and attract people with cash base and money, you better be certain that you have a solution to offer there. So if you're not certain, you either need to get better at your skills or then get the coaching to learn how to communicate if you do believe your service is a right fit. So Health Evaders is my mission to help doctors learn how to attract, convert, scale, and grow their practices with systems that work in a cash-based world. And my mission with MedFit and that network is to educate, to really join Lisa and bring that business aspect. They have so much amazing information of education. Here's how we work with people with joint replacements, Parkinson's, you name it from an education. But if we're looking to have impact, it has to be a profitable and sustainable business model. We are never going to be successful if these cash care or integrated clinics aren't a viable business model. They just say that other system makes money. Sorry. If it doesn't work financially, it's not going to scale and grow. So, and I'm not saying profits before people, I'm saying people before profits. But if you're good with people, you better make a profit if you want this mission and model to succeed and scale. So that's my mission, is to help those trainers. That's why I'm involved with nearly every fitness association, to find the best of them that have taken that next level skill to get a little bit better, to join these practices to be the difference makers in it, because I believe any healthcare system without fitness, wellness, health coaching as the foundation is managed care, not healthcare.
Okay, now, it's a very powerful message, especially in today with COVID. Also, in terms of one of the reasons that COVID is so bad in the United States is because of our obesity and diabetes and hypertension and all those other conditions that make them more susceptible. What is the benefit for a person? So a lot of my listeners are over 50 and they're concerned about how do I win the game of life? How do I keep doing the things I want to do for 20, 30 years? And so why is this important for that population to consider an integrative approach as opposed to the traditional, I'll go to my doctor and then I'll go to my trainer?
So you heard me recognize earlier of every human or system is perfectly designed for the results that it produces. So let me give you another quick story. A lady that was considering, she was out of options for her knee pain, comes in and says, JR, I've already done Suparts. I've already done cortisone injections to manage this. And I said, great. Then, in a much longer story, but long story short, I said, PRP or stem cells would be a great option. And she says, well, does my insurance cover this? And I said, I wish it did. And certainly hope someday it will, because it has amazing outcomes. And here's all of our evidence and literature. But let me ask you a question. Do you have a deductible? And she says, yes. And she said it was $4,000. And I said, do you hit that every year? And she said, yes. And I said, okay, you've been dealing with this for several years now. Is it getting any better? Are you going to put $4,000 in again into something that hasn't worked and you've already tried it? She says, nobody's ever told me that way. So I said, yes, the PRP is going to cost you $750 or $1,000, 2 or 3 injections. I've seen people delay knee replacement by 10 years. I've seen them go back to the things that they love. So she came in, she did 3 PRPs over the course of the year and has no more knee issues. So this is somebody that they've been conditioned that if my insurance doesn't cover it, then what's there? But if you're in conventional care and you're not getting better, look at our stats. We're the worst in the world when it comes to chronic disease and chronic pain management. But hey, my doctor's going to cover a cortisone injection. I'll get drugs. But yet we're dealing with an opioid crisis that people are getting sicker and needing more. And it's, making them half of the version of who they are as humans. So the answer is, if it's not working, it won't work. So please have that as identification right off the get-go. So what I've learned through myself, and to be honest, we didn't go too deep into this, is I was with the best of the best surgeons, with the best of the best orthopedic doctors, pain management doctors, the best functional doctors, and that did get me to a place. But until I started addressing my emotional traumas, my past, my spirit, these things weren't recovering because I was just continuing to grind by working from subconscious outside forces that didn't matter. So I think if you're going to a healthcare practitioner that thinks they have all the answers, you better run fast, because this is physical, it is internal, it is spiritual, it is emotional. All those components need to be addressed if you're not getting to the place that you want. And there's so many sources. So I believe you need a healthcare quarterback and somebody that isn't there. And that's why I love the sport of rugby. It's like sports was always beat your other team, compete against them. Where rugby taught me at the end of the game, you certainly wanted to beat the other team, but everybody was high-fiving. We just played healthcare. But ego has to get out of the way of healthcare. The surgeon thinks the chiro's a quack, and the MD thinks the functional medicine's a quack, even though they went and did more schooling and education, had the same baseline that they did. They actually learned more, and they're called a quack. So the fact of the matter is, we should be all high-fiving people that want to get better, because there are certain people that if we don't do the work ourselves, we don't eat better, and their managed care is only going to be the solution. So we need surgeons. We need the mainstream conventional medicine. But if you're out there and you want to get better, health is everything. So if you're an entrepreneur, you're grinding, and your health isn't there, for what? What do you have to prove? Just like my friend's mom told me, is it's not going to work. If you're not healthy, if you're not vibrant, if you're not doing the things that you love, if you can't be there for your family, or they're going to have to take care of you, then we're missing the foundational piece. Health is everything. and it doesn't happen in one of these practices. Some of the integrated centers don't even have all the pieces and tools, but the right one doesn't say, well, if I refer to them, they're not going to come back. No, if you're the quarterback of transforming their lives, they're going to refer all the people and say, JR was the person that helped me really get a grip on my whole strategic plan for addressing all these issues. So that's where healthcare is going to have to change, as a team approach, not a scarcity approach, not an ego approach, but listening to the client and looking at all those areas, because it doesn't happen. And if I could go back 10 years, I would have probably addressed the trauma first, and I may not be in the same boat that I was in.
Now, if someone wants to, how would someone go about finding a healthcare provider that can provide, that's integrated, that can provide more than just a specific specialty? Because we're taught specialization, and they work in silos, and so the communication isn't always there. So if I were someone, one of my listeners wanted to say, well, how do I find an integrative practitioner? How do I find these people that have the skills that you talk about?
Great question. So of those things that I mentioned, physical, emotional, spiritual, internal, as everybody's got a problem that's more glaring than others. So if you're physical, I would find in pain, I would find a doctor that does regenerative medicine. These are all over now, but just like anything, there's good regenerative doctors and ones that have excelled. So you want to find somebody that has done it numerous times. Find an expert in whatever you choose. If you're talking chronic pain and disease, then go find a functional medicine doctor that's either done the A4M fellowship or IFM. Find the best ones and that do it primarily, that do it well, and that have testimonials. Everybody that's going to compete online today, you should be able to go see the reviews and the testimonials, and that if they transfer lives. I always say, physically, if you're not exercising and eating better, get a health coach, get a personal trainer, get a dietitian, because if you're expecting any result to happen or any of these doctors to be magic makers and you're not doing the work, then you got to start there. You got to take self-responsibility for your health if you're going to get better. So you got to do your part, but then find experts in regenerative, functional. And again, if there's trauma there or past and your forgiveness or blaming or angry or frustrated, church, finding a shaman, finding a therapist that gets you better. And I've been in therapies due to my trauma for a long time. And a couple of these, plant medicine journeys, couple of shaman experiences, Tony Robbins events transformed me more in the last 18 months than years of therapy. So I don't want to discredit the therapy side. It's just, if you've been in therapy for 10 years and you're not progressing, please recognize what I said earlier. Measure progress, not perfection. You're not going to get better overnight, nor am I completely healed yet. You must be progressing. Otherwise, a change is due.
The big thing is, if you're not happy with where you are, if your health trajectory and fitness trajectory is not going where you want it to go, you're going to have to do something different. And then seek out the experts that can give you what you need. And if it's relief in pain, find someone that's really good in that. You may find someone that can handle a bunch of things, and there may be an integrative that has multiple, like the company you work with, but that's not as typical in most places. But there are people that can do it, and you're going to have to do some work. I don't care. You're going to have to do some research on, who do they work with? What kind of successes are they having? Just like you do that if you're going to buy a car, you do all that research on a car. Do the same kind of research when you're talking to a personal trainer, a nutritionist, a health coach. But don't think that you're just by doing it yourself, you're going to get there.
Yes. And don't think just because they have a doctor title, they're a know-all. We all have our expertise or our knowledge. So, for those of you listen, I just want to give you a shortcut. Email me, jr@healthovaders.com. And if you have this condition or this problem or this trial, I'm blessed to work with some of the top doctors in the entire world. So I usually can find somebody in your region, your area, that could be a quarterback and, put you in the right path. But again, I've met none of them that can do it all yet, every single component of it. So it's just, and the good one, the ones that are really good, understand that they're not a solve all for everything, So This is a journey, and it takes time and progression, but it takes finding the right quarterback. So, I'd be happy to point you in the right direction. That's my passion, is to help get these doctors that have the ability to solution. That's why I have my podcast. That's why I have my show, is I bring on the doctors, just like what you do, Bill, is they don't know how to get their message out there. So I can help handle objections, communicate the transformations, the stories that make sense, but they're game-changing doctors, and that's why I'm coaching them to get better, just like I still have to get better in order to become who I need to be. Not that I'm not good enough. I'm happy with who I am, but the fact of the matter is, if I want to be the best that I can be, this is because I love learning, and I can continue to grow to become the best that I can be.
Well, thank you, JR. And I know that your passion is genuine and your desire to help is very real. So if people want to learn more about you and to contact you, what are some contact information you can share with us?
Absolutely. So if you're a physician or a doctor, then HealthOvators, jr@healthovators.com. That's my path. JR Burgess Consulting is more where I consult for businesses altogether, but where you can go listen to those doctor webinars, some of the amazing, innovators out there. And then on the MedFit Tour, we have an awesome opportunity coming up, the MedFit Global, October 1st through the 4th. So if you're in this niche, amazing visionaries, people that are crushing it. And then shortly after, we're going to be having a business workshop, so you can take those skills and that education and learn how to put it to play to be successful. So excited for the combination of these missions to really be a strategic next step solution for anybody, no matter where they're at in their journey.
Well, that's great, because you do need to get someone that has the expertise in what you're looking for, and MedFit helps you identify them, and JR can help you pinpoint specific medical professionals that you can use. So JR, I want to thank you so much for sharing your time and your passion and making yourself available to my listeners so that they can take command of their health and get some of the same kind of results you've been getting. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. You're helping people not be the best kept secret out there. And this is where, right now, there's, again, censorship, pandemic, everything. We all have the opportunity to have our own TV shows, webinars, books. Reading right there is get that message out there. There's people that are losing hope or that don't have hope, and you are that vehicle. So they need you. Learn how to walk through that fear like I've learned how to, and still not self-confident that I'm a great speaker by any means, but it's bigger than myself. So I just put it out there, and, I'll deal with imperfection and try to continue to grow.
Well, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Never Too Late for Fitness Radio, hosted by Phil Ferris. To learn more about the guests or resources on our show today, or to listen to past episodes, go to nevertoolateforfitness.com.